So, welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for being here today. And I'm excited because I get the honor to introduce someone who I could listen to for hours. Seriously, Paul, just the way he conveys his information and the passion behind it is just so incredible. So, you guys are really in for a treat today. This Sunday, I think it's morning for you, right, Paul? It's actually Monday for you over there in Australia.
It's
And
Monday morning. We're in the future.
Yep, exactly. So we're actually going interdimensionally and across timelines today with this event. And today's title of today's event is Reclaiming Ancient Wisdom. So I'm just going to do a little bio from Paul here and we'll get right into it. So Paul Anthony Wallis is an internationally best-selling author whose books probe world mythologies and ancestral narratives for the insights into human origins, human potential, and our place in the cosmos. A popular speaker and researcher, his documentaries and collaborations are watched by millions. As a senior churchman, Paul served as a church doctor and a theological educator and an archdeacon in the Anglican Church in Australia, with numerous titles published on Christian mysticism and spirituality. His 2020 book, Escaping from Eden, was hailed by George Norrie as the generation's chariots of the gods, propelling Paul into the international stage as a go-to guy in the field of paleo contact. Paul's latest book is The Scars of Eden, that is endorsed by Eric von Daniken. And if you've seen Paul on Portal to Ascension at all over the last few years, I really enjoy our conversations, brother. We really go deep, and the last one, I actually just rewatched the one we did in Greece when, you had that talk there, and afterwards we went deep in different topics. Just appreciate all you're doing, brother, and really not only sharing this information, but conveying your passion. And I feel also inspiring others to really dive deep into the passion of uncovering the ancient past, So, brother, thank you so much again for being on Portal to Ascension.
Thanks, Neil. It's a great pleasure. I'm really happy to be with you today. And I should just add a little something to the bio there.
Yeah.
The most recent in the series is Echoes of Eden, which is out now, available through Amazon and KDP, Kindle. And I'm working on the fourth in the Eden series right now. And Neil, you make an appearance in that book. You'll be happy to know. You make an appearance, you get some lines. So you'd better read that one so you can defend yourself.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
I'm joking, but you are in it because I really wanted to give you a worthy shout out for the work that you do and the collaborations that we've enjoyed. So I just thought I'd let you know live on air that you are next in the series.
Bro, I'm so honored. Thank you. Thank you so much. And when can we expect that to come out?
It's going to come out at the traditional time for all Eden books. Which will be the 1st of May, 2023.
All right.
The Audible for Escaping from Eden should be appearing on Audible anytime now. And then we'll be recording the Audible for The Scars of Eden in the new year. But the new book will be titled to be announced May the 1st, 2023.
Amazing. Okay, looking forward to it. All right, so how do you want to flow today? Do you want to just take it away and then maybe open questions?
I'll take it away and then we'll come back and have a to and fro conversation.
All right, sounds good. Go for it.
All right. So the title for today is Reclaiming Ancient Wisdom. And in previous talks with Neil, we've looked at why it might need reclaiming, how it is that ancient wisdom has become lost. And if you're interested in that theme, then The Scars of Eden and Echoes of Eden are the place to go. But today I'm asking, what are the world's ancestral narratives? We call them myth. Does that mean they're not true? We call them story. Does that mean that they're made up? We call them legends. Does that mean that we're really talking about a very ancient process of Chinese whispers as understandings shift from generation to generation? Well, in my Eden series, Escaping from Eden, The Scars of Eden, Echoes of Eden, I argue that many of our ancestral narratives, the stories carried by indigenous traditions all around the world, are really stories that have been curated to carry visual memory. Our ancestors are telling us what they saw and what they experienced and how they interpreted it. And the stories may be quite colorful in the way they carry that memory in order to be memorable, but that doesn't mean that we dismiss them as fable. It doesn't mean that we have to read them in a fundamentalist way where we think we're reading diary entries and every detail, that's exactly what it was, that's exactly how it played out. But I would say there's a middle territory where we look at these stories and we ask, what is it that our ancestors experienced that they wanted us to know about? And what was the wisdom they intended to pass on? Now, in my Eden series, I argue that within that embedded memory is the visual memory of paleo contact. That's contact with extraterrestrial visitors in the deep past. That's an awareness of previous civilizations. That's an awareness of planetary cataclysms and civilization resets through the course of our planet's history. I explore all those themes in the books I've already mentioned and the implications for human potential today, because it's one thing to have a different understanding of our origins, but it immediately flows on to understanding who we are in the present. What's possible for you and me in the present in the light of our ancestors' wisdom. Today, I'm going to peel back another layer. What were our ancestors trying to tell us before their narratives were reframed as fiction? And in particular, what was the Bible about before it became a book about God? Now, in previous talks, I talked about some key words that had been translated as God that possibly shouldn't have been. And those words are Elohim, Yahweh, El Shaddai, El Elyon. And I go into greater detail in those topics in other places. But today I'm going to start somewhere I haven't taken you before, and it's to the land of my ancestors on my father's side, Ghana. And we'll go there in 1948. That's 9 years before independence. And we're standing in a public square and we're watching a demonstration. 150 students with placards are campaigning for Ghana's independence. Since the 1820s, Ghana has been governed at gunpoint, in effect, by the British. The British have occupied Ghana, and they are now maintaining order within the country and establishing all the systems that place it within the empire, and all the trading arrangements, banking systems have all been adapted to line up with the British imperial system. Here we are in 1948, 127 years since the beginning of that story, and something is happening. Now, no country is entirely happy to be occupied by another country, whatever the advantages might be. And the advantages were originally to help the governing factions in Ghana maintain order over and against insurgents. And the British said, oh, we can help you with that. But it hasn't been an entirely comfortable arrangement. And when you occupy another country, you have to maintain order by force, effectively. You might be a democracy at home, but you will be gunpoint governance overseas. And the principle is that if you make an example of one person by imprisoning them for challenging the king, you want to challenge 1,000. Imprison one, challenge 1,000. Silence one person, 1,000 will stay silent. That's sort of the idea. And as long as that's working, you're on a good wicket. But in 1948, the tide has turned. The reason there are 150 students demonstrating and crowds watching besides is that 6 people have been arrested, and now hundreds of people are standing up saying, no, you're not going to do that. The mathematics has reversed. They've arrested 6, and now we've got 150 demonstrators and a huge crowd. Now, the 6 who were arrested were the executives of the United Gold Coast Convention, and that was a group campaigning for democracy for Ghana. They didn't want to be part of the British Empire anymore. And the students from St. Augustine's College and Mfantsipim School have stood up in solidarity with those 6 executives to say, no more of this. We don't accept this. We want an independent, sovereign Ghana. So we watch to see what will happen. Will all the students be arrested? Will they be shot? Well, the authorities had worked out there was a change of fortune here. Arrest 6 and 150 stand up and crowds turn up to support them. Better not make any more arrests today in public. Better not shoot anyone. And so they don't. Instead, they wait until tomorrow, when the 150 students from those 2 schools will all be expelled for the impertinence of saying they think Ghana should be a democracy. How dare they? Democracy is for the British in Britain, not for the Ghanaians in the British Empire. Not only do they expel these 150 students, but they fire a number of teaching members of staff of those 2 schools. There is a law student who decides he's going to do something in response, a man by the name of Kwame Nkrumah, and he puts up his own money to establish a college for all those expelled students to go to, which he calls the Ghana National College. Quite an emphatic name. And he found 4 academic colleagues to form with him the faculty of that new college. And I'm very proud to say that my great uncle, Henry Kofi Sakifio, was one of that group of 5 that established the Ghana National College, which became the powerhouse for Ghanaian democracy. It would only be 9 years later that Ghana would go independent and that Kwame Nkrumah would become the first president of a sovereign, independent Ghana. Story of great pride for Ghanaians and for that whole side of my family. It could have played out very, very differently, because that was 1948. And what the people in the square on that day could not have known was that they were going to get off very lightly for challenging the empire in this way, because Kenya in the years ahead was going to have a totally different experience. And I'm going to read from a section of the upcoming Eden book, just to talk about the kind of pattern of colonization that Kenya experienced. And then you'll see how this relates to the Bible and how we read ancestral narratives and how we understand the Yahweh stories from the Hebrew scriptures. So I talk about how colonization often begins. The offer will be couched in terms like these. We will domicile a major military force in your country. This will be of great benefit to your country's safety in the world and help you manage better any problems you may be having with rebels or insurgents. In return, you will give us your sovereignty. Of course, in due course, the occupied country finds that the occupying army is there to serve the interests of the colonizers above the needs of the colonized. Through imperial systems of monopolies, licenses for access to land, resources, and trade, wealth can be redistributed on the basis of loyalty to the new regime. At this point, a farmer no longer has the right to use their own river frontage or rainwater, is no longer allowed to sow their own crops or farm their own land. Through measures like these, along with taxation of property already owned, the traditional economic base of the population can be removed. Reducing the people's wealth, health, and security creates a population without a surplus of time and energy. The people become anxious, tired, and sick, far more manageable. Disloyalty to the colonizer now called sedition, will be met with the seizure of a family's property, which can be reassigned to a family loyal to the colonizer. The dispossessed family can be separated, husband from wife, parents from children, to be interred in separate death camps, where rebels are hanged and only those willing to show loyalty to the colonizers are fed. Foods and medicines will be supplied as a reward for compliance and loyalty. It will be withheld from everybody else. Those who survive starvation can be put to forced labor. Any leaders of movements disloyal to the colonizers must be shown to be tortured and executed in large numbers, parents in front of their children, children in front of their parents. The executions and torture must be public and dramatic in order to send the message to the wider population that it is better to love the colonizer than to resist. Pleas for mercy to the emperor, king, or foreign power must fall on deaf ears and must be seen to fall on deaf ears. These are not hypotheticals or generalizations, if only. Now, I've expressed that in general terms, but that was exactly the experience of Kenya in the years ahead. Now, you might hear that pattern and think, hold on, which empire was that? Which king or queen did that? Which president did that? And that's a reasonable question, although I've already told you it was Kenya and you know what empire that was part of. It's a reasonable question because those are pretty standard methods of colonization. That's a pattern that's repeated in different countries around the world. I tell that now because it's actually a decent background to what we see in the Bible. You get to 1 Samuel 8 and there is a pivot in the affairs of the people of Israel. The people of Israel, the tribes of Israel, come together and they say they no longer want direct rule from Yahweh. Yahweh's rule has been mediated through a non-accountable spokesperson, the prophet, the oracle, Eli, and his 2 sons. And they've been managing things in a very unjust and exploitative way. But when the people complain, Yahweh couldn't care less about their exploitation. He sees it as an attack on the authority he has established. The people say, we don't want direct rule from Yahweh anymore. We want to be governed by one of our own. And at that point, Yahweh decides not to come and speak to the people himself. He doesn't want to stand up in front of that crowd. So he sends his spokesperson to warn them what it will mean if they go ahead and reject his leadership and appoint one of their own to be a human king. And I will just see if I can find that quote